Hi everybody, it's Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au, and this is our regular weekly feature at this time, Hotspot of the Week, where we focus on just one location from somewhere around Australia we think's got particular potential for growth. And this week I want to focus on a very notable area in the city of Adelaide, the Port Adelaide Enfield local government area. As I've often said in my broadcast through this medium, I think that Adelaide is the most underrated city in Australia. It has a perception of not being a growth city, but I think that's, there have been periods over, say, the past 20 years when Adelaide has delivered very significant price growth, and I think we're going to see some more of that in coming years. One of the reasons is that the South Australian economy is rising, and it's forecast by some credible economic forecasters to potentially lead Australia on economic growth in the next year or so. It's a lot stronger than most people realise. It's one of those places that flies under the radar screen because most of our media comes out of Sydney and Melbourne, focuses on those two biggest cities to the exclusion of most of the rest of Australia. We're not hearing very much about what's happening in South Australia, but it's a very strong economy. It's rising up the rankings, and its prospects are going to improve. And I'll talk about one of the major reasons for that as I get into this analysis, because it relates in particular to the Port Adelaide Enfield area. So this is right now, according to our research on sales activity, and we look for clusters of suburbs with rising sales activity, and in Adelaide, the number one area for that right now is the city of Port Adelaide Enfield. So that's up in the northwest of the Adelaide CBD. It's quite a big local government area. It's over 50 suburbs. The closest of them would be about 8 kilometres from the Adelaide CBD, and then stretching out to 14, 15 kilometres up towards Port Adelaide. And it's an interesting area. It's offers great value for money, a lot of affordable real estate there, but in some pretty solid suburbs. The main thing happening there is at the port, they have the facility at Port Osborne for building vessels for the Navy, and this is the big kicker, not only for this area, but for Adelaide generally moving forward, because there are Defence Force contracts totalling close to $90 billion, scheduled to last for the next couple of decades. Federal government initiatives to build vessels for the Navy. It's not the only thing happening there. There's also a state government program of moving public servants out of the centre of the city up to places like Port Adelaide. There's 500 public servants being moved up to the Port Adelaide area as a current project, and there's a few other things happening there as well. So yeah, we're talking the northwestern suburbs of Adelaide. It's got a lot of strong industry employers. Jobs nodes are always important for hotspots as we identify them. The biggest single employment sector for this area is manufacturing. Then you've got retail, transport and warehousing, healthcare, construction, etc. But the really big thing is the Port Osborne naval shipyard, and the ongoing work that's been going on there, and the fact that there's going to be massive amounts of new naval vessel construction happening there over the next, say, 20 or 30 years. State governments began moving 500 public servants into a new $40 million building. Fertiliser manufacturer Incitec Pivot has just moved into a new $25 million distribution centre up there. So these are some of the major employment events that are happening in this particular local government area, and part of the reason why we rate it as a future hotspot. Looking at the property market specifically, one of the things that stands out is very, very low vacancies, and as an investor that's something you need to be interested in, but there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, but 10 postcodes covering this particular local government area, and all of them have vacancy rates below 1.5%. Many of them are below 1%. So very tight rental market. So there's good, strong prospects for rental growth there. The rental yields are quite solid. Most suburbs have got typical rental yields, maybe 4.5% to 5% for houses. So that's obviously a lot stronger than you would get in Sydney or Melbourne. But housing affordability, particularly relative to those bigger cities, is a very attractive feature. Pretty much all the suburbs we feature in our report. We have a location report on the city of Port Adelaide Enfield, and most of the suburbs we list in our table on page 5 of that report have median house prices under 500,000. Many of them are in the 400,000, so it's kind of that sort of lower middle market area, I guess, for Adelaide by Adelaide pricing standards. There are some with median prices in the 300,000, places like Killers Plains, Rosewater, Valley View, median house prices in the mid to high 300,000s, and then in the 400,000s, suburbs like Greenacres, Enfield, Dernan Court, Clearview, Blair Athol. And then a little bit more expensive, Clemzig, where median house price is 530,000. We're starting to see strong price growth in some of these suburbs. The best of them have double-digit price growth. Rosewater's up 10% in the last 12 months. Croydon Park has risen 14%. Blair Athol's up 11%. And then the other suburbs that have risen 7, 8, 9%. So while you'll see media's a tendency to publish a single figure to describe a housing market in a major city like Adelaide, and also Adelaide prices have risen only 2 or 3% in the last 12 months, but it's not like that across the board. And in this precinct, many suburbs have had much stronger price growth than that, and the potential for ongoing price growth is quite strong. But the future relates partly, or perhaps primarily, to what's going on with the Port Osborne shipyards. They're going to be building 12 submarines for the Navy, 9 frigates and 12 offshore patrol vessels. An upgrade to the facilities at the shipyards is already underway. It's over $500 million being spent to expand the shipyards so they can build these vessels. There's going to be a naval shipbuilding college established as well. And the workforce is going to be required for this is going to be numbered in the many thousands. So it's going to create a lot of jobs, and that's obviously very important for the property market locally and across Adelaide generally. So that's the city of Port Adelaide Enfield. It's our hotspot for the week. We think of the most strongly rising market right now in Adelaide, which we continue to believe is a very underrated city that's going to show much better price growth than people realise in coming years. That's it for now. Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au signing off. We'll talk to you again soon.